Do you know when you are reading a book and then suddenly you are reading words and not a story anymore? Usually that happens when there is a flaw within the book, be it on the story, be it on the writing itself. And if you don't want that to happen to your story, I'm here to help. Hi, I'm Vivian Nagy. I am a freelance book editor and I am here to help you make your story shine. And welcome to the first video of Nagy in the Margins. I've created this channel because I wanted to talk more about books and other places didn't allow me to talk that much. So here I am, recording 10 minutes plus worth of content. I named this channel Nagy in the Margins because, well, Nagy is my surname. And if you take my books, you will see that I annotate a lot. And usually I have annotations in the margins of the book because I like to write my thoughts as I am reading them. Since this is the first video, I am going to introduce myself. I have been a teacher first for a long time, an English teacher. I got out of college where I got my degree in literature and languages, and then I started teaching English as a second language, and then I started teaching English with a little bit of literature as well in schools. But that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I began to edit as a side hustle. And I liked it. I began translating too as a side hustle. And with these side gigs, I began to love talking about books like that more and more. I had some rough patches, of course, but I'm not gonna go into detail. It doesn't matter. What matters is that lately I have managed to turn editing into a full-time job. And I loved just knowing why things worked, how things worked. And of course, books are the love of my life. And I wanted to know how they worked too. So after I entered the university, I fell in love with criticizing and analyzing and discussing everything related to books. So here I am. I really love to create stories too. I have my own stories that I write. But the art of storytelling, this craft, is something that fills my heart with joy. So I was very pleased to know that there is a career where I can help other authors find that joy in creating those stories and making those stories be their best selves. So yeah, I am here to help you make your story shine, for sure. This is not an introduction video. I am using this video to make an introduction about myself. And because of that, we are going to go to a mini masterclass where I'm going to help you with 3 topics that I think are very important that every author knows about. First topic is about the character arc. I know a lot of you think that characters always must go through a change, and usually that involves trauma, I know you. But you have to consider what is the best character arc for your story. Because not always such a big dramatic change is what your story needs to make it better. Sometimes what your character needs is to go through a minor change. Like just one part of themselves need to change. I specialize in fantasy, horror, and sci-fi, though I work with other genres as well. But in these 3 genres is where I see the most of these big character arcs, where they go through massive trauma, massive changes. And sometimes we don't need that. In horror, for example, which is my favorite genre, I'm guilty of that. In horror, we usually see trauma, of course, because it's horror. But depending on your story, what you can use is a flat arc. Sometimes a flat character arc on a horror story has much more impact on the overall sensation of dread that a horror story can bring. We want the character to change to face the horror. But if the character doesn't change, then the dread comes because the character cannot adapt to survive the monster. Or even worse, he's just as terrible as the monster he's facing. Or we can just increase the tension by having other characters think that, like in John Carpenter's The Thing and MacReady. That also can work in fantasy, not necessarily for the main character, but for side characters. You can see here that I am a fan of Lord of the Rings, and we all love Gandalf. Gandalf is one of our beloved characters from this wonderful franchise. And if you think, has Gandalf changed as a character? No, he has not. Yes, he has turned from Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White, but essentially, how he acts, how he talks, how he responds, he hasn't changed. He has what we call a flat character arc. His essence doesn't change. Yes, he got a new set of clothes. He got a new stuff. He got more power. I don't know. He got new stuff, of course. He straightened his hair. His hair is white now. But essence-wise, personality-wise, he hasn't changed. And that's why he has a flat character arc. Another person who has a flat character arc, Katniss Everdeen. Katniss Everdeen does have a flat character arc. She doesn't change her personality. She doesn't change exactly how she thinks. She may change a bit on how she responds to the world, but overall, she has more of a flat character arc than any other character arc we can have. So, yeah. And another mention of a flat character arc, most of detective stories, the detective has a flat character arc throughout the story, throughout the whole series. Sherlock Holmes is the one you can think of, like, for sure. I am a fan of Joe Nesbo. I have here my Portuguese edition of The Snowman and the rest of the series. And Harry Hole has a flat character arc up to the Leopard. I mean, he changes a bit, but his personality is the same. He has a flat character arc because the story doesn't change him that much. His motives, his way of finding the clues, his way of using his detective skills, his way of dealing with people, he's always the same. He doesn't change. It's not like I'm going to get the Harry Hole from the Bat and then take the Harry Hole from the Snowman and say, these two are two different characters. No, it's Harry Hole. He's the same throughout the whole series. Up until the point that I have read. Sherlock Holmes, same thing. It doesn't matter which story you get to read. He's going to be Sherlock Holmes. The same. Act the same throughout the whole thing. Sherlock Holmes, I think, is the best example of a flat character arc, if you think about it. I'll probably make a full video about character arcs later on, but just the beginning here. Second part of this mini masterclass is about pacing. I know a lot of authors are concerned about the pacing in their story because usually when I ask my clients to fill the form explaining what are their worries and what they want me to focus on when I am editing their stories, 9 out of 10 times they say, please check my pacing, fix my pacing, is my pacing too fast, too slow? So, yeah, pacing is an issue, I know that. But the thing is, overall, authors take the pacing problem and spread this problem throughout their novel. They think pacing is related to the whole novel. Yes, the whole novel has a pacing. Every novel has an overall pacing. We have fast-paced novels, usually action ones or short stories, horror short stories or horror novellas. We also have sci-fi novellas too. We have slow-paced novels like historical romances or philosophical novels, slice of life ones. They usually have slower pace. But the thing is, for your novel to have a consistent and good pacing as a whole, you have to think of the pacing in the scenes, in the chapters. Each chapter should have its own pace. Each scene should have its own pace. If you get the pacing right for each chapter, each scene, then baby, you are good. Your novel is good. You have to think that each scene, each chapter is like a miniature story. It's like you have the whole arc of the story, a whole story arc, but your whole story arc is made from point A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So if you want your story to go from A to G, you have to go from A to B first, B to C, C to D, and so on. And because of that, you have to think of the scenes and the chapters within their own pacing. Let's take fantasy novels. Fantasy novels usually start with a slower pace, and usually they go with this slower pace until half of the first chapter. The mid of the first chapter is when the pace changes to build suspense, to build intrigue, to build expectations that you want to hook your readers with. And because you want to hook the readers, then you increase the pace. The first chapter of a fantasy novel ends with a higher pace because you want to have the reader engaged enough that they will stop the last line of that first chapter and they will go like, what? No, I have to, no, you can't stop like that. And then they're going to open the book and check the next chapter and so on. And then we have to think of the common tropes of a fantasy novel. We have moments where they are learning about the magic, they are training with their weapons, they are in that build-up of that part of the novel has usually a faster pace because you don't want to spend the whole training detailing every single thing. No, you want to move a little faster there because when we get to the action scene where they're going to use what they have learned, then we use a little bit of a slower pace just to keep the reader engaged. And we usually keep the reader hooked because they want to fast forward to know the results. But if we hold back a little bit, that's when the intrigue happens. And of course, if you are writing a grief scene in any genre, you don't want the grief to be 2 pages long. If you want to write a grief scene, a funeral scene, that has to linger. That has to stay with the reader for more than just a couple pages. Because it is it's a heavy, heavy feeling. It hurts. It should hurt. And it hurts because it stays with us too long. So you want a slower pace there. I'm also going to make a video about pacing later. So stay tuned. And then we get to the third and final part of this masterclass. That is description. Specifically, description of scenario. Usually when I am editing my clients' novels, they have 2 problems. They either fall on the problem that they don't describe enough, or the other side that they describe way too much. But the problem isn't not describing or describing too much. The problem is mostly when they do this. For example, if we take an action scene where they are fighting, it is very important that you describe a little bit more the scenario of where they are fighting. What is happening there? Is it grass? Is it sand? Is it a gymnasium? Is it the middle of the concrete? Do they have a lot of space around them to run and fight and hide? Or is it too close, too tight? Are they fighting in a corridor, in a hallway? The scenario changes a lot how the fight is perceived. And the opposite is when you describe too much. If you are entering a scenario, and this is mostly common when we have fantasy, sci-fi, horror, things that you created a new world for, because you feel this need. I know that. I do this myself with my own stories, okay? But you feel this need to describe everything because it's your world. You created it. So the reader is not going to know that. So you need to describe everything. You need to put out there everything, every detail, every stone in the wall. The problem is that if it is the first time we are entering that, we don't care about the scenario. We don't care about that place. Readers always care first about the characters. If you don't make your characters and the actions that are happening to that character or because of that character interesting, then the scenario is going to be even less interesting. Whenever you are describing the place for the first time, I always recommend that you describe it through your character's eyes. How is that character perceiving the scenario? If it is the first time the character is going to that place, what is the things that the character notices? You don't have to describe everything. Pick 3 things that the character would notice. It doesn't matter if it is the most important or not. You can reveal more of the scenario later, especially if they are going to go back to that place a lot of times. But if it is the first time they are going there, they are going to notice things that are important to them. And that matters much more than just describing the scenario. And the same goes if they are revisiting a place that they already know. How are you going to describe the home of that character? They already know their home. So what are the things that they notice? If everything is familiar, what is it that they notice about that? What is the unfamiliar about that familiar place? That is awesome with horror, by the way. With horror, I love to see when the authors are playing with the unfamiliar in the familiar. So this is a great example of when you can use little description of scenario to create the setting. If it's not horror, what are the things that are important to that character that they are going to notice first? For example, if I enter my home, the first thing that I'm going to look for is my dog, which is sleeping right now. Then, if I look at my dog, I'm going to look first at the table that is right by my side, see if there is anything in the wrong place there. If it is, I'm probably going to put in the right place. The next thing that I notice is the hanging spot. I completely forgot the name of that. But the place where you hang your coats and your bags and everything. The first thing that I notice can be to that hanging spot, because I enter and I have my bag with me. I'm going to place it there. So I'm going to look at how the things are there and what we have above the hanging spot. You have to think of how the character perceives the scenario first. Then, if over time we become familiar with the place, it becomes important, it's a place where the character returns to a lot, like, I don't know, a magical school where he goes every chapter to, then is the place where you put all the details, you spend 1-2 paragraphs describing the scenario, and each time you can describe a little bit more. That's the place where you put every rock in its place. So yeah, as I said before, I'm going to do more of these types of videos where I am going to go into deep dives of writing tips, and I'm going to explain everything, how it works with examples, okay? I'm going to bring more examples. And yeah, I'm going to always bring an editor's perspective to the books. So I am planning to do book reviews too with an editor's touch because I love to read. And my reading isn't about the plot anymore. It's about everything regarding the book. So you can expect some book reviews by an editor. And if you'd like to get to know me a bit more, I've put links in the description here where you can check my website, check other things that I do. I have a TikTok where I post funny stuff there. So yeah, I am going to see you on our next edit. And until then, go fill your book's margins. Bye!